That's right. It is 2000 on a Sunday evening, and that means, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Brushfire Mind. I've got Cade and Cameron with me tonight. Steve couldn't make it because that son of a bitch is off to see a concert without us. Didn't even call to ask if we wanted to go with him. So Steve and Buddy are going to see a show. Good for them. Good for them. It's been a hell of a week. There's a few things I want to talk about tonight. There's quite a few things I want to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about the Drumhead. We're going to talk about Comey, the sphincter that just keeps on giving. Comey just won't shut up. He just won't quit. It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. But first, we're going to talk about some tragedy. We lost two of my heroes this week, Cornell and Roger Ailes. I grew up with Chris Cornell's music. That got me through high school. I'd say there are two bands, Soundgarden and Counting Crows, where I've owned all of their albums. Kind of like you remember the scene in the first Men in Black movie where Agent K holds up the new tiny little information thing and he says, I'm going to have to buy the White Album again. I was like that with Counting Crows and Soundgarden. Every time a new medium replaced the old, all my cassettes went away and I got it on CD, and then all my CDs went away and I got it on digital. You talk about soundtrack of a life, especially my military life. There were a lot of fantastic songs from Soundgarden. And Cameron, I'm going to have you unmute yourself and talk about Chris Cornell a little bit. But before Cameron talks, I know what Cameron's going to say. And before you do, I've mentioned Chris Cornell, of course, because he's the hero that we've lost. But Soundgarden and Counting Crows, Chris Cornell and Adam Duritz, the reason I mention them in the same breath with frequency is they are probably not just my favorite, but objectively the most skilled modern poets. So, Cameron, if you could talk over your little monkey there.
that came across the mic. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Trisha's not here to corral him. I've literally got him locked in with the baby gate. It's fantastic parenting over here going down.
There's some hot dogs in there. They'll be fine.
Some hot dogs and cookies. No problem. No problem. Okay, so actually, Chris, hold on just 1 second. I'm sorry. This is horrible. This is so unprofessional. Boys. Go away from the gate.
I want everybody to notice that in an attempt to spare us from the noise, I decided to cover the headphone rather than the microphone.
No, I covered the microphone. This is the microphone. That's what I covered.
It didn't help.
It didn't help.
Okay.
So singers, and I'm just a few months younger than Chris, and I also liked Soundgarden a lot. I also liked Audioslave a lot. I really love the song "Burden in Your Hand" more than any other. I think it's just the right amount of pop and rock, and just really shows off the vocal ability that Chris Cornell had. And when you talk about really amazing singers, they're going to have one of three qualities. They're either going to have an extremely unique sounding voice, like your Bob Dylans and your Billy Corgans, or they're going to have a very technically proficient voice, like Pavarotti or Mariah Carey. Or they're going to be able to sing with a lot of soul. You're going to be able to instantly recognize the way this person is singing, and that's maybe Eddie Vedder or Kurt Cobain. And then if you're really, really, really amazing, you have two of the three down pat. And then if you are just something unbelievably special, you've actually got all three. And Chris Cornell with his 4-octave range and the ability to, I mean, sing the way that he sang with a rock band was just amazing. And I think it's safe to say there's never going to be anybody that sings quite like him ever again.
Yeah, and for you guys that are watching, leave us a note in the comments. Leave us a note in the comments about your favorite musicians. Talk about singers that are just, you can't miss them. When you hear them and you know them. Eddie Vedder, for example, Adam Duritz, the guy from Hootie and the Blowfish, whose name I can never remember, but everybody, the first time they saw a Hootie and the Blowfish video, everybody, you hear that voice, you're like, oh yeah, I know that, that's Hootie. And then the first time you see that video, you're like, Hootie's black? And we were all shocked. and their shit's excellent. So yeah, leave it in the comments. Who has that voice that just, you can't miss it? Now Roger Ailes. Roger Ailes is somebody who most of us don't know Roger Ailes from any one thing. Oh, Sharon, the lead singer from Tool is Reverend Maynard. And yes, absolutely Tool. But anyway, back to Roger Ailes. So Ailes is somebody, you probably aren't familiar with his work as any individual thing. Roger Ailes, the magic of Ailes was this. He turned men into icons. Roger Ailes made Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, just anybody that's active in talk radio, Fox News, a few other news channels. They didn't all just stay under the Fox. And let's not forget several presidents. Roger Ailes was a kingmaker to the highest order. And some people love him for this and some people hate him for this. He's also the man that is responsible for blending politics, information, and entertainment. He is the father of modern infotainment politics. And it's a double-edged sword. Why do I say that? In the early 80s, before Rush Limbaugh had a radio show, there was no alternative. All media was liberal biased. It was left-wing biased. And they were already flirting on the left with communism and socialism to a pretty high degree. So all of your news outlets were similarly biased, which means that you didn't even have access to certain news, to certain information. It was intentionally being left out. And many people will look at today's journalists and say, well, I wonder what Walter Cronkite would say about these guys. Cronkite was a lefty hack too. It just didn't seem so blatant because he wasn't a fly in the buttermilk. He was just one more drop in the same vast ocean and blended right into it. If you go back and look at his work now, the only thing I can say for his ilk of the time is they were more involved in the actual investigation. Now, if there's anything we've lost in the expanse of the 24-hour news cycle, it's because you have so many networks clamoring to try and fill all 24 hours. Well, they got so busy trying to fill that they forgot to have stuff to fill in between. So now it's all filler. It's all so-and-so reported X, Y, and Z. and so reported that, so and so reported X, Y, and Z. You get one or two people find all the news, and then everybody else that's getting a paycheck out of it is just regurgitating that same old shit. But before Ailes started launching conservative side media, there was no alternative information. All you got was whatever was being spoon-fed to you, which meant there wasn't the debate. The conversation was poor. It was limited, and that's how we got shills like Carter and Clinton. So losing Ailes, that's a big blow. It really is. Now, guys, unless y'all want to add anything else to that, I don't want to go over dedicated to the loss of heroes tonight. I don't want to dig too deep into the weeds. I don't want to talk about cause. I don't want to talk about. I just want to. I'm going to miss these guys. I'm going to miss their work. I'm going to miss their major contributions to the world of art and entertainment and information. So, guys, unless you have anything else to add, Cameron, Cade, move on to.
Well, I didn't get to say anything about Chris Cornell, but you guys pretty much covered it all.
Dig in.
dig
in for us.
There's not much to add. I mean, Soundgarden was a huge part of my teenage years, and then hell, Audio Slave. I lost 70 pounds trying to get into the Navy listening to that first Audio Slave on repeat over and over. And it was the only thing. It was the only complete album that I had on my little iPod when iPods were first a thing. And I always thought, I have always said that Chris Cornell and Paul Rodgers were the two finest rock voices in history. And now one of them's gone, and it's really sad. And I know you don't want to get into reasons, but I think as it unfolds, we may want to touch on that in a future show.
We might.
But anyway, that's it.
Well, then, before we leave it off, what was your favorite Chris Cornell song?
Oh, man.
It's
I think it actually may be the collaboration with Eddie Vedder on that Temple of the Dog song. The one that they play over and over.
That was the first, I know for a fact that was the first song I ever heard where I heard Chris Cornell sing. You're talking about Hunger Strike.
Yep.
Yes. Because Eddie Vedder's got one of those voices too, like you were talking about earlier, and I love that collaboration. But strangely, it's with all the years of Soundgarden and what there were only 2 Audio Slave albums, correct?
Yes.
But all the years of that, and honestly, the Casino Royale theme song, "You Know My Name," became probably my favorite Chris Cornell song. And that sounds blasphemous because it was like 2005, I think it was, in all the years before that. But I just that song just proved that the guy still had it, and he still had it up until the day he died.
Mine was always the 4th of July. I heard it on the wind. I saw it in the sky. I thought it was the end. I thought it was the 4th of July. But then he came out, and this was, Audio Slave. I Am the Highway.
Yeah. But as for my teenage years, probably Fell on Black Days is the one that I love the most.
Ooh, and Rhinosaur.
Yeah, I don't want to go too far into the weeds again here, but you talk about Fell on Black Days. One of the saddest funerals I ever went to when I was 14. A good friend of mine actually committed suicide, and the preacher at the funeral actually quoted that song because that was when it was big on 99X, when there was a such thing as a 99X. And yeah. Oh yeah. Look, you talk about this being part of your youth, and maybe it's just because we're all the same age and all grew up listening to Bad Motorfinger and Super Unknown. It just is what it is.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to some other stuff. I want to tag this one quickly. I'm gonna do a little screen share here. If I can find my mouse again. I lost my mouse. Oh, okay, it's over there. And there it is. Sorry. Okay. So, Washington Post ran an article. Trump mocked Obama for bowing to the Saudi king. Are you guys seeing this right? Yes. Okay. Trump mocked Obama for bowing to the Saudi king, and then blah, blah, blah. They're talking about how Trump, now all of a sudden Trump bowed to the Saudi king. It's right here, guys. Watch. Here's where it happens. Oh, this is what bowing looks like. All right. So this Saudi king that we're talking about, Donald Trump is 6'2" tall. The man that's putting the gold necklace around his neck is the Saudi king here. When we talked about Obama bowing, he straight bowed. This wasn't receiving an award. This wasn't Obama's 6'1", and so he's got to bend over. So no, he straight bowed. But what do we have with Donald Trump? He lowered his head so that the 81-year-old guy who's nearly 6 inches shorter than him and apparently can't lift his arms with the cape on could put a medal around his neck.
You know what? If we had some footage available of Chewbacca receiving his medal at the end of Star Wars, we could probably... Oh, wait. That's right. That didn't happen.
Oh, yeah. You got cheated. All right. So I don't want to talk about it a whole lot. I heard a report about this earlier. People are talking about it, so I just wanted to go ahead and get in front of it and say, look, no, shut up your noses. This is not bowing. So now, I think we've got everything else out of the way. It's time to talk about the Drumhead. Cameron, do you have anything you want to say before we run the clip? Give us a little intro.
I'll just preface this with this has actually been buzzing around in my head for a few days. I think science fiction is often very predictive of the world that we live in, both from a social point of view and a technological point of view. And I thought about this episode for days of Star Trek that we're about to watch a couple of minutes of, and it just so reminded me of what is going on now, the way things are happening. I just felt like we kind of had to share it and use it as a springboard. So I'll shut up and we'll watch Patrick Stewart nail it here.
Can you hear that at all, guys?
No, not well.
I do not understand. 500 years ago, military officers would upend a drum on the battlefield. They'd sit at it and dispense summary justice. Decisions were quick, punishments severe, appeals denied. Those who came to a drumhead were doomed.
But we know there is a traitor here. Dan has admitted his guilt.
That's true. He will stand for his crime.
Tarson says all but done the same.
How?
He refused to answer the question about his Romulan grandfather.
That is not a crime, Worf. Nor can we infer his guilt because he didn't respond.
Sir, if a man were not afraid of the truth, he would answer.
Oh, no. We cannot allow ourselves to think that. The seventh guarantee is one of the most important rights granted by the Federation. We cannot take a fundamental principle of the Constitution and turn it against a citizen.
Sir, the Federation does have enemies. We must seek them out.
Oh, yes. That's how it starts. But the road from legitimate suspicion to rampant paranoia is very much shorter than we think. Something is wrong here, Mr. Wolf. I don't like what we have become.
Okay. Thanks for humoring us there. Hope that wasn't too laggy for you guys. Anyhow, obviously, in this scenario, I would in many ways equate Donald Trump to Captain Picard, because if you watch the whole episode, what's happened here is there was an accident on the Enterprise. There ended up being a spy on the Enterprise. Special counsel was brought in, and as a result of this special counsel's investigation, people started getting in trouble for crimes that really didn't have anything to do with what happened with the special counsel. And if we're going to compare it to anything, let's take a really cynical point of view and look at Ken Starr and Monica Lewinsky, and let's say that for all of that that special counsel did, that special investigation, all they found was a dress with a little extra sauce and some cigars with a little extra zip. If you put aside the perjury that Bill Clinton committed, but I guess you just have to, because the Clintons seem to be perjury immune for some reason.
It's just what they do.
Yeah, that's just old Bill. He just, he's full of shit sometimes. So anyhow, and that produced nothing, but it did drag a whole lot of ugly stuff out into the public eye. And I think in many ways what's going to happen here is this is going to be a special counsel, because people are paranoid. They're convinced that there is some big Russian collusion, and that somehow James Comey was this close. He was this close to cracking the case, guys. He was this close. And Donald Trump fired him, and now it's like he cast a magic spell on the rest of the FBI. They cannot continue to investigate whatever was going on. So I sincerely believe that this special counsel, I don't necessarily think that it'll bring down the Trump presidency, because if they had proof of Trump doing something malicious with Putin prior to the election, we'd all already know about it, and Donald Trump would already be undergoing the articles of impeachment. They haven't done any of that because they don't have anything. They have such scant evidence that it's actually criminal to continue to investigate Donald Trump. It would be harassment if it was anybody else. But what's going to happen?
Real quick, I just want to point out, they appointed a special counsel. That's important. The fact that what has been appointed is a special counsel, not a prosecutor. If there were a crime to investigate, it would have been a special prosecutor. Here's the thing about Trump and Russia. They keep saying Russia interfered, but they've never said how. They made fake news. Okay, show me. What fake news did they make? Oh, they hacked something. They hacked what? They hacked the Democrats? They hacked, let's see, Hillary's emails were exposed as in the course of the Benghazi investigation. That's how we found the Hillary Clinton email server. And part of her defense is that the server was never hacked. So the Russians didn't hack it and give us the server. And Hillary claims that the server was never hacked. Okay, so it wasn't that. Oh, it was the Podesta emails that came through. Nope. Wasn't that. Podesta was the victim of a phishing scam that was the fact that Podesta was the victim of a phishing scam is all the more troubling because unlike civilians, people in a position like his are made once a year at least to sit down and go through a briefing on how to maintain security. And part of that is using complex passwords. And since his password was password, he fails. Okay, so
Tag that real quick.
It was the other DNC emails that nope. We know where those came from too. So that's the thing. We keep hearing Marussia, as Styx Hexenhammer says. I love that. Marussia. And, Donald Trump colluded with the Russians. Okay. If you can't say what the Russians did, and there's no evidence, they didn't do anything. If Donald Trump colluded with them, that's not actually a crime. Now, if you can show me that Donald Trump paid or promised favors to Russia to execute an action, that's one thing. Still technically not a crime. If you want to show a crime in this case, in a foreign power being involved in manipulating the U.S. election cycle, for it to have been a crime, about the only thing you can do is show that that foreign power funded the actual campaign. You know, the way OPEC funded the Clinton campaign. Go ahead, Kim. Sorry.
Tag that real quick, eh?
Yeah, I know. It's what I do.
Verbose. I still don't think the special counsel bodes well. It reminded me of this episode of Star Trek because people are going to get caught in the crossfire here. And it's going to have the additional measure of, as soon as they get a scalp, it will reinforce their conspiracy theory. It might be something that's really only tangentially related, but at this point, any breach in the walls is a breach, and it could be a lot of problems. It could be real trouble, especially with how familial Donald Trump speaks with people. He says, he talks the way we talk. He says sarcastic things and kind of pokes at people sometimes when he's frustrated with them. It's that whole thing that's like, man, I'm so pissed at you, I could kill you. I'm not actually going to try and kill you. Like that's not what's going to happen. But that might be something that you...
in hyperbole.
Yeah, like that one time. And as far as all that goes, what does Russia get out of this? Well, there's one thing that Russia might get out of this. They might get some of their trade sanctions lifted. They might negotiate a new deal with Donald Trump because they have had sanctions placed against them. They can't buy directly from Europe. So no more European cheese, no more European milk or anything like that. And there are things that they could potentially get out of this. But even that, okay, if the goal, so say the liberals, is not to win conflicts, but to resolve them. I mean, if we can figure out a peaceful way to lift the sanctions off Russia, isn't that a good thing? I mean, I'm just saying. But I don't think that's the direction this is going to go at all. I think because this is Washington, D.C., and this is the people that they're dealing with, it's only a matter of time before somebody falls. And then as soon as somebody falls, they're going to redouble their efforts. It's going to be proof of the conspiracy, even if even if it's something completely unrelated. Be like, well, running a car theft ring's not exactly the same thing. And then I can just see sites like Slate and Vox coming back with, actually, did you know that the Russian mafia makes 13% of their money off a stolen car ring? Coincidence? We think not. Which is about the best the left has got at this point. We don't like Donald Trump. He made a joke one time about maybe Russia has Hillary's emails. Maybe it wasn't a joke. But he made a joke one time about Russia had Hillary's emails, and ever since then, people have accused him of inviting Russia to hack us, which is just sophistry. sophistry. Sophistry.
No, it's a false equivalency fallacy. But anyway, I scrolled across a meme. You got Nancy Pelosi. We had to pass the bill to find out what's in it. And Maxine Waters. And we have to prosecute the president to find out what crime he committed.
That's not American.
No, that's the problem with everything that's going on here. There hasn't even been an actual allegation of crime. The only allegation has been, we think Donald Trump did something wrong. But what? What did he do wrong? Well, he did something wrong. So, I want to talk about how all this stuff is the assumption of guilt until the proof of innocence. Because, of course, in America, we are innocent until proven guilty. Unless apparently, if you're a cisgendered white conservative male. But the assumption of guilt until the proof of innocence, we've got Chris Cuomo earlier this week. You need to prove that there's no proof on the Russia question. No, I don't. That's the trick, buddy. If you're going to make an allegation, the burden of proof lies on the accuser, always, without exception.
Yes. It's not up to Donald Trump to prove that he's innocent. It's not even necessarily up to the state to prove that he's guilty. It is up to the state to produce evidence, and they have produced none.
How can you prove that you're innocent of something if there was no collusion? How do you prove that?
There's actually a Star Trek: The Next Generation episode about that as well.
But let me throw a scenario out there. I believe her. It is my job to believe her. Girl cries rape. It's a horrible thing. And if it's true, it should be the end of a man. But that whole I believe her thing, that's what it is. It is the assumption of guilt. When you force the accused to prove their innocence, then what you do is you hand power to possible victims who are not victims to destroy people who are not victimizers. I went to a certain college. Oh, it's been a while. And while I was there was one girl. This is a military school. There was one chick that cried rape 9 different times. After the 6th time, I think it was, there was a change of command, and we got a new brigade commander in. I'm sorry, battalion commander. And so I don't know if he just missed her file, but the seventh or eighth time she cried rape, he prosecuted it the same way the others had been done. But on the ninth one, when it got to his desk, now keep in mind this is only the second or third one that got to his desk. The other ones went to the previous commander's desk. But when the second or third one hit his desk, he said, "Now hold on a minute. There seems to be a common denominator in this little equation of love. We need to check something else out." He pulled the rest of her file. Lo and behold, he found that this same girl had been raped on 9 different occasions, according to her file. And in each case, she had gone out to dinner and a movie and drinking and gone to the club and then checked into a hotel room with the rapist. Now, I'm not saying that date rape doesn't happen, but that's 9 young men whose lives were ruined. And she was the common denominator. Every time she gets date raped, every time. See, that's hard to buy. But
Speaking of things that are hard to buy, where do you buy Rufalin? I have no idea. I'm not Bill Cosby.
that's a good question. That's a very interesting question.
I have a hard time finding a sack of weed if my mom got cancer. I don't even know where I would get something like roofies. I mean, good grief.
Yeah, I know where to buy weed. Apparently, it's in Washington. Okay, I need a laugh track, so I'm not just laughing at myself because the other guys that are laughing are muted. So yeah, finally she was thrown out for that. She was actually being thrown out already on an unrelated matter, and she was expedited the fuck out. But that's what's going on here with Trump. We make a wild claim, produce no evidence, and then generate the expectation that the accused must prove his innocence, must prove. Oh, Lucas, that would be Washington State. I don't think it's legal in D.C. yet, is it? I don't know. Anyway, but to be asked to prove. Let's take a murder case. How does a murder investigation go? When you interrogate the suspect, what's the first thing you ask him for? Where were you on the night of? The only thing you can prove as a suspect in a crime, as far as proving that you did not do it, the only thing you can prove is that it wasn't possible for you to have done it. Right? If the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. If an alibi places you out of the country, for example, or with witnesses who can corroborate your removal from the location of the crime. If Colonel Mustard was not in the study with the candlestick because he was playing checkers with Professor Plum in the library, and Judy's on the floor under the candlestick in the wherever it was I said she was. Plum and Mustard are each other's alibis. Hey, I was with him. Hey, I was with him. We didn't do it. It must have been the other guy. It must have been Tim Curry. So the alibi really is the only thing that an accused can do to prove their innocence. Apart from that, the job of defense is to call into question the reliability, validity, or pertinence or prescience of individual pieces of evidence. The evidence itself, however, is all to prove that the accused committed the crime. And that burden is always on the accuser the prosecutor, and the state.
And how do they prove it? With evidence. As much evidence as they can present. And just one more time, not to beat the dead horse, but there's no evidence. There's no evidence. Thank you.
Now, let me ask this. Does anybody know how we know there's no evidence? Do we know there's no evidence because the mainstream media and the drive-bys have not shown us the evidence? They haven't mentioned the evidence. They haven't told us that there is evidence. They haven't told us what that evidence is. Okay, that's one. We also have the sworn testimony of the absence of evidence by James Comey.
Yeah, but James Comey's sworn testimony is not necessarily that reliable.
In fairness, Comey has perjured himself a few times of late. His sworn testimony does not have the weight that it once did. Oh, but wait a minute. We also have the sworn testimony of Daddy Dernza, Admiral Rogers, and a few more. I mean, let's see, who else has said that there's no evidence?
Dianne Feinstein said on CNN just a few days ago that there is no direct links to Trump with any of this. And I mean, there was no gray area. We don't have anything on Trump. The implication, of course, was we don't have anything on Trump yet. We don't have anything on Trump yet. But yeah.
Comey is supposedly going to talk tomorrow.
I mean, at this point, I mean, seriously, I have this memo that could have brought down a presidency that I decided to hold on to until after I got fired. I mean, why do you even want to talk to that guy? It's a waste of time at this point. He's only going to make things worse.
Well, he's only coming forward supposedly to say that he was pressured to let it go.
Yeah, but the thing is, if that actually happened and he didn't report it to the Department of Justice like the next day at 8 a.m. when they opened, then he's kind of guilty of a crime too, because once you're a law enforcement officer, you have certain responsibilities. It's expected that you will treat certain situations differently. My dad explained it to me. He's a police officer. That what might be a misdemeanor for me would be a felony for him, and so forth and so on.
Right. And let me just the timeline real quick. So here's the timeline. How it actually went down in order of events. Flynn got fired. He got fired after. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me back up. The tape of Flynn talking to the Russian was leaked, which that having happened is not evidence of, but that is certain proof of someone having committed a felony. So the tape of Flynn talking to the Russians gets leaked. Flynn got fired. The committee examined the tapes. James Comey said there's nothing in the tapes, that there's no evidence of any wrongdoing contained in that tape, which was illegally obtained to begin with. So James Comey had cleared Flynn. And according to James Comey's timeline here, after that happened, after Comey cleared Flynn, Trump asked Comey to back off the investigation. Comey is saying that after he cleared Flynn, he was asked to do that. And then Comey testified under oath that no pressure had ever been applied by a president on the investigative wings of our government, on the NSA, the FBI, the CIA, so forth. He testified under oath that no president has ever attempted to coerce the investigator from stopping an investigation for political purposes in the way that he is now accusing Trump of having done it. After the timeline says that he is now saying that Trump did just that. And then a little while later, Comey is fired. Go watch The Bluff from a week ago Friday, and you can see me explain why Comey had to be fired. And then, after Comey's fired, we get this memorandum. Just real quick, I want to explain what the memorandum thing is. This is a sticky note pad. This is a Sharpie marker. Note to self. And this is apparently now substantiated evidence.
Yeah, and look, let's just follow that rabbit trail just a little bit. So James Comey is this super meticulous note taker, right? He takes all these notes. Anytime there's even anything that might even be the slightest bit questionable, he documents it as a CYA policy. Okay, cool. Where are his memos on talking to Obama and Hillary about Benghazi? Where are his memos interviewing Hillary about her server? Where are his memos on the leaks that keep coming out of the White House? Oh, wait, there wouldn't be any memos about those because they haven't flipping investigated the leaks that are coming out of the White House. And the other thing, not just there should be a whole trail of these memos all over the place. What Comey has done here is really has set himself up in such a way where it's almost like he's making some desperate power play here, where he just
let me cut you off there real quick. Just a quick correction. The deal with the memorandums, though, as I understand it, Comey himself did not release the memorandum. Somebody else did that on his behalf. So I'm very interested to see the hearing. Kate, you said it's supposed to be tomorrow? Okay, I'm very interested to see how the hearing goes, because if Comey, under oath before the Oversight Committee, sticks to that memorandum, then he will have perjured himself, period. It will be inarguable that he has perjured himself.
Although tomorrow may be him coming out and officially agreeing to sit in front of said committee. I'm not entirely positive what tomorrow is supposed to be. And really, it's all just insiders saying that they know that he's going to come forward and agree to sit in front of a committee.
Now, there's one other thing that I really want to chew into here about the memorandum, and it's actually what I think is going to be the most trouble that Donald Trump is going to have here. And that is the way Donald Trump is. Let's say I have no doubt that some sort of a conversation happened between Donald Trump and James Comey. And if that conversation was, look, Comey, you know Flynn's secretly a good guy. Now that all this has gone through and he's going to end up being fired anyway, it's just going to do a lot of damage to the nation or whatever. That is, yeah, I saw that earlier today. Don't mess with sea life. They will kill you.
Go ahead. Talking. I'll do it in a minute.
Gotcha. Wow, the sea lion thing just made me lose my whole thread there. Okay. All right.
Yeah, you're supposed to ignore me until you're done speaking. I was trying to set up so that we didn't have to wait after you were done talking. Anyway.
Thanks. So But Donald Trump's familiar way of speaking could get him in trouble, because that conversation is entirely different than, well, Comey, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We're going to stop investigating Comey now. We're going to stop investigating Comey now, aren't we? Yes, that's what we're going to do. Now, that it's stop investigating Comey. Haha, Comey, we're going to stop investigating Flynn now. Let's get the names right. But
I was wondering where you were going with that.
Sorry, man, the sea lion. It wrecked me there. So, but I think this is going to spell trouble for Trump because of the way he speaks, because he's not afraid to exaggerate and speak in generalities, and he's more concerned with conveying his emotional points than he is with being technically correct. You get some humorless special prosecutor. Newt Gingrich said something on Sean Hannity's show. I heard it as I was coming back from work, and he said that as part of some investigation that he was part of, that he was interviewed for about 8 hours straight by 3 different committees, and some of his statements slightly contradicted each other, over the course of this 8 hours, being asked over and over and over and over again, which would honestly happen to any of us. How many of us say the exact same thing the exact same way every single time? We don't. And because Donald Trump is who he is, I really feel like they smell blood in the water here. And again, I don't necessarily think that this is the end of the Trump presidency, but this is going to get some scalps. They are going to take somebody down, and they are going to further discredit the Trump campaign and the Trump presidency with it.
Oh no, no. I think as this develops, it's going to further weaken the Democrat side, because the mainstream media and the Democrat Party, they are now, and guys that are watching this, you need to repeat this. You need to say it as often as you can. The left is the boy that cried wolf. As long as they keep screaming "Marussia, Marussia, Marussia," and nobody sees a Marussia, then when they come back and start screaming "Machina, Machina, Machina," we're all going to think we're all just going to assume that they're lying again. Oh, there they go again.
Yeah,
not their voters. Not their voters.
I'm going to quote Picard here, that the road from legitimate suspicion to rampant paranoia is a lot shorter than we think.
Yes.
Yeah, their supporters are going to continue to believe exactly what they want to believe, and whatever it doesn't matter what they prove with Trump at this point. They just know. They know in their souls that he colluded with the Russians. They don't know why or what.
All right, well, guys, we're running up on the clock, so I'm going to share this real quick, and then we're going to move on to our next, because this is just everything. Kate, I want to make sure that your microphone is not muted. I want to
muted?
Respond.
I've
Kate,
seen it.
Go ahead and unmute your microphone. I want to hear you respond.
Oh my God!
When I watched that earlier, I thought it was so surreal. The guy's sunglasses floating in the water behind him.
and just in case, they run it again in slow-mo for us.
Yeah, I love that. And you can hear the down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier.
All right. And on that
There's somebody who will never watch Finding Dory again.
All right. And now, Kate, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and mute yourself as Cameron takes over for hashtag White Hats Matter segment. Heartwarming stories of death and destruction. And Cameron, please say those 3 little letters that I love to hear.
Oh, this week it's extra juicy because it is hashtag DRT, as in hashtag dead right there.
Dirt!
Yeah, dirt nap. Oh, that's a new hashtag, dirt nap. There you go. Because we're punny. Yes. But this story is
We have
absolutely insane.
These aren't your daddy's puns. These are thunder puns.
Yes. Yeah, this story is utterly insane. So I just want to get this right. In Harris County, Texas, at about 2 a.m. On Jurgen Road in Harris County, they received a 911 call because apparently a man wearing only underwear kicked in the door. Now, in this house, there was grandma and grandpa, there was son-in-law and daughter and brother, and there were 3 grandchildren. Grandpa confronts the man, tries to get him to leave the house. He starts to beat up Grandpa. Grandma comes to Grandpa's defense, and he starts to beat up Grandma. So daughter comes to the defense, and he starts to beat up daughter. And then he makes the terrible mistake of starting to go toward the bedroom where son-in-law was asleep with the children. Now, because this is Texas, of course, there was a gun in the room. So the son-in-law got the gun, loaded it, and actually fired a warning shot at the intruder. The intruder continued to act aggressive and charge. And as soon as he got close to the door where the kids were hiding, he shot him twice. Son-in-law shot the intruder twice in the chest, and he was dead right there, as in dead right there. Now, I got to tell you, as a dad, as somebody with kids, I mean, you want to talk about something that just chills me to the bone. What would I do if some nut high off his nut, some nut high off his nut, some nut high off his gourd on PCP kicks in my door and starts beating up my wife? Good grief. I would hope that I wouldn't panic and I would still pick up my weapon and I would have enough presence to plug him full of so many holes. Because, I mean, good grief. But, yeah. But as I say every week, kids, remember, if you never rob the liquor store owner never pulls a shotgun from underneath the counter, fills you so full of birdshot, you look like a plate of spilled SpaghettiOs.
Yeah, if you stay up that liquor store, Grandpa Irvine ain't gonna get you.
Don't commit crimes, always comply. Don't commit crimes, always comply.
99% of violent death goes away if you follow those 2 rules, period.
Also, no hospital bill, no aggravated assault charge, and admit nothing, deny everything, and make counter accusations. And ladies and gentlemen, with that, I want you to check out our Patreon. Leave us $1 a show. Pop over to minds.com, like our show there. You can tip me. You can tip me on minds.com. You can tip me $1 on vid.me. Look us up on all the channels. Make sure you subscribe. The idea is to spread the fire. And until next week, remember, if you build a man a fire, you'll keep him warm for the evening. But if you set a man on fire, he'll be warm for the rest of his life. Good night.